Hey dudes, and welcome back to the Bants. As always, I am your host, the Bants, and it is Monday, so it is time for our third installment from our list week videos. And in this video today, we are going to be going over my top 5 collaborations out of 2018, so let's just jump right into it. Now, 2018 really wasn't the best year or strongest year for collaborations in my opinion. But even with that said, the ones that did end up shining through pretty brightly. So without further ado, let's just get right into my honorable mentions, of which I have 2 collaborations I want to discuss. So first up, and probably one of the more surprising entries on this entire list, is the Mitchell and Ness NBA and a Bathing Ape collaboration. Now, even though I've been pretty committed to not talking about Bape over the last couple months, this still deserves a mention. It's by far the best collaboration that Bape has had in a really long time, which honestly shouldn't be the case, seeing as how Bape just had a slew of collaborations for their 25th anniversary a couple months ago, but that's not what we're here to talk about. But now moving on into the collection at hand, it's really not the most interesting concept in the world. It is of course just Bape camo on something else, this time of course being NBA jerseys and shorts, but it's still very well implemented. And even if it isn't the most interesting concept in the world, it's still a very cool idea. It's definitely one of those why hasn't anyone thought of this before kind of ideas. And when it works well, my highlight probably being the Golden State Warriors jersey set. Damn, does it work fucking well. However, for as many positives as there are to this collection, there's just as many, if not more, negatives. For one, the fact that all teams aren't created equal is a little bothersome to me. No, I'm not saying that all the teams should have been represented here. In fact, I think that 8 out of the 30 possible teams is actually a pretty decent selection. But even with that said, why do only 2 of the teams have anything beside a jersey and a t-shirt? Why is there only 2 pairs of shorts and even less so 1 jacket? And speaking of those non-jersey pieces, for the most part, they're not that good. The jacket is alright, but the t-shirts absolutely suck. They're just fucking garbage. Which, okay, sure, we really shouldn't be too surprised about because this is modern Bape we're talking about, but still. But for mostly those reasons and a few others I don't really want to spend my time on, that's why this collaboration isn't on the main list. Fortunately, if you are a fan of some of these pieces, such as the jerseys or the few shorts that did come out and weren't able to get them on release, the good news is that the resale on them isn't actually that bad. So they should be pretty easy to find with just a minimal amount of digging. But with all of that now said, let's move into my second and final honorable mention, and that is of course the Playboy and Freak Store capsule collection. Now, I absolutely loved this collection. Absolutely loved this collection. Because comparing this collaboration to the dozens upon dozens upon dozens that other brands have attempted over the years, I personally don't think any has come even remotely close to being as consistently good as this collection is here. And the funny thing is, it can really just be broken down into 2 simple concepts: a collage and a checkerboard. But even so, it's just executed so well and so cleanly, especially with the collages, since they're busy enough that they don't detract from the fabric's pattern in a way that you normally would in other all-over prints. So with all of my gushing and praise, I'm sure you're wondering why it's in the honorable mentions and not on the main list. Well, it's because it's just too small. This whole collection is only comprised of 6 pieces. And no, I'm not including the 2 hats here because they suck. And 6 pieces is just not large enough to be a part of the main list. It's just not, which is super unfortunate because god damn is this a fantastic collection? And it seems like a lot of other people agree with my sentiments as well, because this collection has been sold out for a very long time. So if you don't already own a piece from this collection, chances are you probably never will. Alright dudes, and now with the honorable mentions done, it's finally time to move on into the main list. And starting us off at number 5 is the collaboration between Vans and Vincent van Gogh. By far my favorite shoe company of all time, collaborating with one of my favorite artists of all time. It's really no surprise as to why this is on my list. There's a great selection of pieces here, everything from a ton of different shoes to a bunch of different tops to go along with them, and even a couple accessories to go along with these as well. And I really have to give it up to Vans here for such a nice selection of paintings as well. I mean, yes, sure, some favorites are still here, such as 14 Sunflowers, for example, but at the same time, I don't think I saw any mention of Starry Night whatsoever, which was super refreshing. Plus, I absolutely loved the amount of attention they gave to some of his skull pieces, which are just absolutely great. But now moving back into the pieces, I also think a lot of the little details they added into them were just fantastic as well. Take this hat, for example, obviously the skull hat. Inside, they didn't have to do this, but they put in some of his writings as well. You know, just the little things to help kind of accentuate that collection into something a little bit more. Plus, their level of creativity, especially in their shoes, was just stellar in my opinion. I mean, take a look at the skull shoes here. How often do you see companies, aside from just do quality of art prints this well, do something like an asymmetrical print on a shoe? It's really just not that common. However, this collection is far from perfect, and that is why it ranks so high on this list. For one, aside from the shoes, the quality on the rest of the apparel and accessories isn't really that great. Going back to that hat behind me, when I went to originally pick it up, there was probably 6 or 8 or so of the same hats there, and that one was probably the only one that really had a centered and straight patch on it, which is just really unfortunate. And my second major complaint, although this is much more of a preference thing, is that the majority of this collection, and I'm not just talking like 55-60%, I'm talking more like 80% of this collection, was all women's wear, which is of course totally cool if you're a woman, but surprise surprise, I'm not, so I just can't fit most of it, which just sucks. But either way, it was a very well put together collection artistically, and it was very nice to see one of these larger companies embracing a more historical artist for once. Okay, and now coming in at number 4 on my list, we had the absolutely phenomenal collaboration between Larose Paris and Missoni. Quickly, just do yourself a favor and just scroll through some of the images in this collection, because these pieces are just gorgeous. If there had been a single video in this list week solely dedicated to just hats or even just accessories, this collection would have topped it easily. Great quality and great designs once again from Larose Paris. They're as interesting as they are well made, mixed with some of the phenomenal textiles you'd expect from Missoni, makes for some of the most perfect hats I've ever seen. But why is it number 4 then? Well, some of you might have already caught on by now by the way I was talking about this collection, or some of you might have caught on from the start knowing just what these two companies make, but here's the skinny for the rest of you that don't know. This collection, it's only a hat collection. Yes, I know, I'm being a hypocrite. Why am I putting an only hat collection in the main list and not even at number 5 but at number 4? The thing is that these hats are just too good. Their quality is too good, their designs are too good, their colors are too good to just be honorable mentions. And probably more realistically, I'm just too much of a hat guy to put these on the honorable mentions. They're just way too good of hats to not be on the main list. sorry. But with that said, if you are just as big of a hat fan as I am, then I would definitely go looking at this collection and trying to pick up your hands on some of these secondhand, because believe me, if you can, they will be more than worth it. But now let's move along into number 3 on my list, and boy, I'm not sure if I'm ready to talk about this one yet. Now, I know I said earlier that the Bape inclusion was pretty surprising, but this next one is leagues more surprising. It might honestly be the most surprising thing I ever put on any list ever. And that's because number 3 on my list of top collaborations out of 2018 is the collaboration between 2001: A Space Odyssey and the Hundreds. Did you guys feel that? I think hell just froze over. But in all seriousness, who would have ever thought that I would put the Hundreds on a best list of anything? But even for as partial and biased as I can be on a bunch of different brands, I still have to give credit where credit is due. And between this collab here and a couple others they did this past year, the one that comes to mind first being the Karate Kid collaboration, though definitely not the Playboy one, that one was hideous. The Hundreds have had a fantastic year for collabs. But also, let me reiterate, I am only talking about collaborations here. Their mainline still sucks. But really, would you honestly expect anything different out of the Hundreds? Okay, but enough shit talking now, let's move on into the collab, and damn, is this a good collab. For all of you young designers out there, and especially streetwear designers out there, take note of this collection here, because Bobby is absolutely putting on a clinic, and let me explain why. One of the biggest, most immense problems with streetwear nowadays is their graphics. It doesn't matter if we're talking images, it doesn't matter if we're talking lettering, it doesn't matter if we're talking embroidery. Most graphics nowadays suck, especially when it comes to that oversaturated or maximalized style. So it's really nice to see an old head come in here and show everybody, young and old alike, how it's done. Take a look at everything here, from the fonts and the colors used to the graphics and their placements. Nothing here feels overbearing or cluttered or out of place, even for as filled up as some of these pieces are. The colors all work well together, they pop, and everything just feels very nice and clean. The skate decks are very cool, the only hat in this collection is very well done, and those tie-dye shirts are absolutely great. It's actually rather unfortunate how fast this sold out when it did. And I know that might come as a shock to some of you out there who know that I said I would never ever wear the Hundreds for whatever reason, but even though I still agree with that 100%, if somebody ended up putting a gun to my head and told me that I had to wear something from the Hundreds, well then this would probably be my exception. So overall, a fantastic streetwear collaboration here, and definitely one that you should check out for inspiration's sake. But only for inspiration's sake, young designers. Don't go out and just start copying this shit. There's already way more than enough Virgils out there already. We really don't need any more. We're getting down to the wire now, and coming in at number 2 on my list is the one that probably all of you expected, and that is of course the collaboration between Tommy Hilfiger and Kith. Now, I'm sure this entry comes in as very little surprise to some of you, seeing as how many times I've already talked about it across how many videos now. But even for as much as I've talked about it, I still continue to stand by it. And aside from the Hundreds, talk about another streetwear brand that has been absolutely killing it in the collab game this last year. They had that Coca-Cola collab that I thought was very nicely put together, as well as another entry into their Bergdorf Goodman collaborations, which was just as nice as it always is, plus that Greg Lauren collaboration, which was honestly very weird but still very nicely implemented for what it was. But even with all of those collaborations and many more, this one here was still the best. There's an insanely large amount of pieces to choose from shoes to boots to pants to shirts to button-ups, jackets, hats, beanies, you name it, they got it. And some great design choices and quality and details that we've come to expect now from Kith. But the best thing about this collaboration, in my opinion, is just how seamlessly put together it feels, which probably is the first collaboration to do this in a long time. And what I mean by that is that it just seems like these two companies came together almost effortlessly and were able to just synchronize up and pump out this collection without much effort. It's just that well put together. I just wish that Ronnie hadn't taken all the success and praise from this collection and attempted to become Tommy Jr. But hey, I guess we can't win them all, can we? Alright guys, we finally made it. This is it. It's time now for my number 1 entry out of all of my favorite collabs out of 2018. And I know there's a couple of you out there who are probably wondering what this is, seeing as that the Kith Tommy Hilfiger collaboration was number 2. If that was the case, then what could possibly be number 1? Well, even though this choice wasn't really that much of a surprise to me, I know it'll definitely be a surprise to a lot of you, because when I talked about this brand, or this collab, over a year ago now, many of you weren't around, so I really didn't expect you to even think about it. But what might stun you guys even more than that is that this collaboration here isn't a streetwear collaboration, it's a contemporary wear collaboration. My number 1 collaboration of 2018 is the collection between Necessity Sense and Lane Crawford. I bet absolutely nobody saw this coming, which actually is a bit of a shame because this should have gotten a lot more attention than it actually did. So let's break it down real quickly. Necessity Sense is a Taiwan-based contemporary brand that is absolutely murdering it right now. And Lane Crawford is a legendary Hong Kong-based boutique that has just a phenomenal track record when it comes to capsule collections, exclusive collections, and collaborations. Seriously, go check them out. Some of the craziest things have come out of their doors in just the last few years alone. So when I saw these two companies come together for a collaboration, I knew it was just going to be a match made in heaven. With Necessity Sense showing off just how well they could do sleazecore earlier this year, and yes, this is sleazecore, not scumwave, know the difference, even if we're just talking about imaginary genres. Lane Crawford only helped to bolster what the brand already knew. There's a ton of different patterns here mixed in with almost as many materials, as well as some really great cuts and styles that help give off that fantastic sleazy vibe. And all of this is tied together with just the right amount of graphics and embroideries and other accentuates to help keep it feeling more interesting without being overused. And what you're left with in the end is a collection that I would consider one of the best all year, contemporary, collaboration, or otherwise. So all in all, an absolutely fabulous collaboration out of Necessity Sense and Lane Crawford, and definitely one that many other brands, streetwear or contemporary, could definitely learn a thing or two from. And with that, guys, we've reached the end of my top 5 collaborations out of 2018. So now, of course, as always, I pass the questions off to you. Do you agree with some of my opinions here? Do you agree with some of my decisions here? Are there some brands or collaborations you think I definitely overlooked, or at least deserve to be on this list as opposed to some of the ones I put on instead? Whatever your opinions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I always want to hear what you guys think. And with that, thank you all once again for watching these videos and supporting my content. I hope you have a couple great days ahead of you until I see you next, and as always, until next time.